So situated at an elevation of 7,800 feet, playing the WGC Mexico is by no means easy, that is, unless you're Dustin Johnson. And the tournament's 4-year history, they're in Mexico. He has won 2 of the past 3 years. In his 12 rounds of the event, he has gone 47 under, 21 under last year to beat Rory McIlroy by 5 strokes. So right now, DJ is the second favorite to win the tournament behind the guy he beat last year, currently the world's #1, McIlroy. So what is at stake for WGC Mexico? So the winner gets a 3-year exemption. The total purse, $10.5 million. You see there, the winner's prize, $1.82 million. The winner also gets 550 FedEx Cup points and a projected 70 world golf ranking points as well. All right, so let's bring in 2 of the contributors to the First Cut podcast. We have Rick Gaiman and Kyle Porter. All right, so we've got the Genesis behind us. We've got tequila and golf ahead of us. So let's go to Mexico. Let's start with what I was just chatting about. These WGC events, why are they so important? And Rick, we'll start with you here.
Yeah, a lot of reasons. First off, the pocketbook can get a little bigger when you put another $1.5 million in it, but especially in an Olympic year where the world golf rankings are so critical to get you into the Olympics. These are free world ranking points. They're essentially free Olympic points, and it's just a really good opportunity to get yourself in the tournaments that you want to be into later in the season.
Yeah, and I think especially at this time of year when you're kind of heading into, the Players' Championship and the Masters, it's a really good opportunity, like we saw at the Genesis last week, to take on what's a great field. You know, you've got most of the top 50 guys in the world. So I think for me personally, like I look at this WG specifically, and it's a lot of momentum building. You know, you see DJ, I know we're going to talk about him some more, but, he's won it 2 of the last 3 years. He gets momentum going into major championship season, and we've seen him have a lot of success there as well. So I really like that aspect of specifically this WGC and where it's kind of placed on the calendar.
All right, so something specific and a challenge for golfers is the elevation here. I kind of mentioned it. The course, depending where you are, anywhere from 7,600 feet to 7,800 feet above sea level. So thinner air, that means the balls will fly further. So, Rick, how much is distance control going to be for some of the guys here?
It's a big deal, and yeah, we're going to see a ton of bombs, but really the hard work that goes in on Tuesday and Wednesday on the range with your TrackMan, trying to find out what all your new numbers are. These guys are going to be hitting numbers with their pitching wedges, with every club that they've never hit before, and the first one to kind of solve that new puzzle, that new math problem, is going to have success this week.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because I saw Gary Woodland talking about that this week, and he was kind of talking about how, like, look, I don't want to know what the actual number is. He just has his caddy do the math for him and gives him whatever, the adjusted number is. So I think it can kind of get in your head a little bit. You know, you fly some of these greens, you come up short. Even the first hole, it's a drivable par 4, and it can kind of mess with you maybe mentally more so than physically. So it will be interesting to see how these guys kind of navigate that elevation change and what it means for how they're hitting clubs into some of these greens.
And just to follow up there, Kyle, just out of curiosity, what about their body? I mean, do they have to adjust physically to this, or is it really just the ball control they got to focus on?
No, it's definitely physically as well because, like an NBA team going to play in Denver or Utah or something like that, you don't have as much oxygen. Now, we can make jokes about golf and how you don't really need that as much in golf as you would in basketball or football or whatever, but it can wear you out. It can wear you down over the course of a week. It's obviously really good to hydrate throughout the week. I sound like I'm like a personal trainer or something. That's not what I'm trying to do. I think it's really important, and I think most of these guys are fit and healthy, so it won't be a huge issue. But it's definitely something to keep in mind as the week wears on.
Well, Tiger won't be there, so we don't got to worry about his weight, or him worrying about it, I should say. Okay, so somebody who has figured out this Mexico equation, as you mentioned, is Dustin Johnson. He has dominated here, currently 5th in the world golf ranking. His putting game has been solid recently. That's going to help him out here. So, Rick, can he get his 3rd win in Mexico?
Certainly looks like it's trending in that direction. DJ's been knocking on the door ever since he got back from his offseason knee procedure. He's trending certainly in the right direction. A lot of it for him just comes down to the putter. If he's going to be able to get his flat stick rolling, and I think to Kyle's to his point earlier, one of the things that really works well for DJ here is that he doesn't seem to overthink it. He just grabs the club out of the bag, hits it, doesn't really worry about what's going to happen. He doesn't get paralysis by analysis, and it's put him in a really good position year in and year out.
So you're telling me that DJ doesn't overthink some of the shots that he's hitting. Am I getting that right, Rick?
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever talked to DJ before.
Look, DJ, I've been kind of down on him over the last year. You know, he did not play well to end 2019, and I think the way he's come into 2020 has been really interesting. He's had some really good showings. He was good for most of the week at Riviera. He played well in Saudi Arabia. He played poorly at Pebble Beach, which is a track that he really likes. I mean, I go back to last year, though, at this course. He was 21 under. Rory's second at 16 under, and then third was 11 under. So he beats third place in that field by 10 strokes. He has just absolutely owned this golf course. So, you know, if that comes into play, if historical performance on this golf course is a big deal, then DJ certainly has a big advantage over the rest of this field.
All right, and we're going to get your actual picks coming up in a little bit, but kind of want to focus individually on some of the players right now. So we talked about DJ, of course, who's won 2 of the past 3 years. Rory McIlroy, the world #1, is actually the favorite to win this tournament as of right now. He was also the favorite to win the Genesis. He went into Sunday tied at 10 under, but ended up finishing second, much thanks, of course, to that triple bogey on 5. So, Rick, is that, I mean, he played pretty well the rest of the tournament. Like I said, he was tied for the lead going in. So is his finish there at Genesis a concern going into this tournament, or do you just completely wipe that off the slate and start new?
I'm willing to wipe it off the slate. I mean, it's just a good sign when the world's #1 player continues to put himself in a position to win a golf tournament like Rory's been doing over and over again. I'd argue he was the best player on the planet last week for, I don't know, 70 of the 72 holes. It was the 5th and the 6th on Sunday that really got away from him. And this course here at Chapultepec is going to ask a lot of you with the driver, and that is the absolute strongest part of Rory's game. So I have really no concerns about this week.
Yeah, I don't have any concerns either. I mean, Rory has been, I think the thing that strikes me about him right now is it looks so easy for him. I know it's not. I know it's more difficult than he makes it seem as he's playing, but you know, he's finishing top 5, top 3 every single time out. I mean, he's been top 3 on the leaderboard in 9 of his 16 rounds on the PGA Tour this season. That's an unbelievable number. And it doesn't even look like he's doing anything outside of what he's just normally capable of doing. So I think that's been the most impressive thing, is the ease with which it seems like he's gotten back to #1 in the world. And I think that comes into play in a field like this where there's a ton of stars, there's a ton of big names, there's a ton of guys that are playing well. And he kind of stands out above the rest of them right now.
And Kyle, I mean, if for some reason he didn't win this tournament, do you feel like it's just a matter of time until he wins, you know, something else?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, it's all about, on PGA Tour, it's all about taking shots. You know, are you within 2 on a Sunday afternoon late? Are you within 1 with 5 holes left? You're just trying to give yourself a shot. Because, you know, I think the thing we don't talk about a lot is how much luck plays in. You know, you get a bad bounce here, you get a big break here where somebody makes triple like Rory did. You know, Adam Scott got a big break to win that event last week. Now, he went out and did it. But even the best guys in the world, I was looking at the numbers from last year. Rory was #1 on the PGA Tour in strokes gained overall by a wide margin, and he only won 3 times. You know, that's not a ton of wins based on how good he was compared to the rest of the field. So, you know, you're just trying to give yourself shots, and if you do that enough, you know, we've seen the best players in the world, they do it enough, eventually you're going to win 1 or 2 or sometimes 3 in a season. Somebody
who needs to hear that is Jordan Spieth. We're going to get to him in a second. Okay, something like we talked about is difficult about this is the elevation there. But Rick, you've said that Bryson DeChambeau actually figured out kind of a good strategy for this. What is it?
Well, the strategy is hit it as far as humanly possible and then go find it and try to do the same thing again, which is something that Bryson has really mastered over the last couple of weeks. He's entering this field leading this field in driving distance, that new bulked up version of Bryson. It's going to be volatile. He's still trying to figure out his swing, his new body, but it's looking like he's putting it together with a top 5 finish at Genesis and looked really good along the way.
Yeah, he said he's hitting a hybrid, Rick, into the first hole. He's reaching the green on number 1, which is a par 4. Is a par 4 with a hybrid, which is a joke. Sometimes I think that Bryson still cares about like performing well, where he finishes, whether or not he's winning. But he has talked so much over the last 6 months about the gym, how far he's hitting it. I'm like, what are we trying to do here? Like, what are you actually focused on? Now, I think it's helped him out. I think he's playing better than we've seen in the past based on some of the distance that he's gained. And this is a place where it's going to help you a lot. I mean, this is a place you can overpower. You can just obliterate this golf course because of the way it's set up. And because, as long as you're not losing it in the trees like Phil Mickelson. So I think it'll help him here. And we'll see. We haven't seen him win in a while. So I think it'd be really interesting to see him in the mix on Sunday.
The last thing about Bryson is if we're asking all of these golfers to go out and find what their new number is and do all of the math, this guy is the mad scientist. Like, I trust him to be able to figure out all his new numbers quicker than the rest of the field.
Really quickly, Rick, I just want to ask you, because you said, and I love it, I mean, it's fun, hit as far as it goes and then go find your ball. But they really do have to be exact on this course. Kyle mentioned it just a second ago, but that it's tree line. So even though you are trying to hit it that far, you do have to be exact here, right?
Yeah, that is certainly an exaggeration on my part. The tree line fairways, you have to hit them, and then a lot of situations you have to hit them on the correct side of the fairway, or else you have kind of a blocked shot. You have to hit these, cut pitching wedges into greens, which doesn't make anybody too comfortable. So yes, in the fairway, you don't want to be in prison in those trees.
All right. So yesterday, I'm going to kind of bring people into our conversation. So we have like meetings about this show. Yesterday, we were chatting about this tournament and asking you guys, hey, who are some players to watch out for? And we had the usual suspects like Rory, DJ, but then both of you started to throw in some names like Tommy Fleetwood, Louis Oosthuizen, Abraham ANCER, and we realized there's this whole other group who's kind of been flying under the radar, but we really got to pay attention to them. So Rick, I'll start with you. Who are some of the Euro players that we might have forgotten about over the past couple of months?
Yeah, these WGC events are a great showcase for the rest of the world, and a lot of us who just follow along on the PGA Tour are very American-centric. So, yeah, you nailed it. Tommy Fleetwood, one of the best iron players on the planet. Even someone like a Louis Oosthuizen, who just continues to be Louis, which is finished second, finished third in events. He's not winning anything on the Euro Tour, but he's constantly in contention. He's got so much major, so much WGC experience. There is no field that's too big for him.
Yeah, Tommy Fleetwood is the guy that I had talked about a little bit on the First Cut podcast with Will Haskett earlier in this week. He's got 4 top 15s in a row on the European Tour. We haven't talked about him a lot because I think we've been focused on PGA Tour, been focused on Phoenix Open, 16th hole, Riviera, all these different things, and it's like, oh yeah, Tommy Fleetwood's like one of the 6 best ball strikers on the planet, and also he's played great on this course. He finished second to DJ 3 years ago. He's had some really good performances here. I think it's going to be interesting to get everybody kind of together for a weekend to kind of sort out where everybody's at heading into the Players' Championship.
All right, so I mentioned Abraham ANCER there. By no means is he the favorite to win this tournament, but that said, he grew up in Mexico. He is playing there on home soil. So, Rick, what do you think we can expect from him in this tournament?
I expect that he's going to walk in there with a lot of high expectations. He's going to want to compete. Sometimes we kind of joke about this being a free paycheck and guys showing up to collect their official World Golf Ranking points. It is certainly not the case for Abraham ANCER, who's probably going to have a lot of fans, probably family, inside the ropes or following him around. And I think he wants to put on a good showing, and that's exactly what I'm expecting out of him.
I think the thing with ANCER, we think of him, he was a good fit, obviously, for this tournament before, but he's really blossomed into, I don't know if he's a star on the PGA Tour. I don't know that I want to go that far yet, but he's a real name. He's a really good player who emerged during the President's Cup, has kept up some of that momentum. He's had some really good finishes to start 2020. So it's not like, I think before you would say, oh, Abraham ANCER could win the WGC-Mexico Championship, and it'd be like, yeah, I guess he could, but is that really going to happen? And now it's like, yeah, he actually could because of the way he's playing. So I think that's a pretty cool development for him and for this tournament in Mexico.
All right, we got to talk about Jordan Spieth. I said we were going to. Kyle and I have dubbed ourselves like the president and the vice president of the Jordan Spieth fan club because we're from Dallas. And it just hasn't been good for him. I mean, 2015 was such a hot year. 2017, he won the Open, and he is just struggling. So at the age of 26, and I hope this is not the case, but Rick, has Jordan Spieth hit his ceiling?
Well, the answer is yes, but it's not as bad as it sounds. I mean, his ceiling was multiple major championships. 2015 was literally one of the most historic golf seasons in the history of the sport. So the ceiling was super, super high, but it's going to be difficult to get back there for anybody. It's just a really bad situation for Jordan right now, where it seems like 1 week he can't figure out his driver, and the next week the putter goes away, and then he can't hit his irons, and it's just like everything's going wrong. I think he just really needs a reset, and yeah, I mean, maybe some fan mail from you guys, the Jordan Spieth fan club.
Somebody needs to pull Rick's cord on his microphone. This is not going the way that. I mean, look at the numbers right here, though. He's 153rd off the tee. He's 153rd in approach shots. He's 178th in putting. I mean, his 2019 was buoyed because he had, I think he was second on the PGA Tour in putting in 2019. And so he has like these 3 top 10 finishes, and you're like, wow, Spieth is, playing well. It was a mirage. I mean, it was completely a mirage. The tee to green game is still, it's just not good. And we saw that at Riviera last week. He was 66th in a field of 68 on the weekend in terms of his approach shots. He's not hitting his irons with any consistency whatsoever, and you can't putt your way out of that. You could be the best putter of all time. You could be 10 times better than the best putter of all time. You can't putt yourself out of being almost last in the field on your approach shots, and until he fixes that, he's not going to be super competitive.
All right, we're going to cross our fingers, and we will not pull the plug on Rick's mic just yet. We're going to give him another 10 minutes or so. All right, welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. Earlier today, I put out on Twitter, I was asking people if they ever check their Venmo or PayPal, and they just hope that money is there. I am one of them. I have 0 money in there, so I would like to make some money. Maybe you do too. Taking a look at DraftKings, these are the most expensive players heading into the WGC in Mexico. Rory McIlroy there at $11,500, followed by DJ, who won it 2 of the past 3 years there at $11,000. So what do you do? How do you make some money? Let's bring in Rick Amos to talk about it. Rick, I was checking you out on... that sounds weird when you say it out loud. I just heard myself. But here's the thing. This is why. So last week, everybody was super high. You guys stop. On Bubba Watson. And you said not so fast. Sure enough, he didn't make the cut. So for my good friend Tommy Tran and the rest of the people who like to be degenerate gamblers, in fantasy land, who do we target to make some money? Ignore everything I said before that.
Sure, yeah. It's a salary cap game, and it's kind of a lot of game theory. So if Bubba Watson is super popular like he was last week and he misses the cut and you don't have him, you get leverage on the field. So when I look at this, and as much as I love Rory, he's very expensive at $11,500. I'm going to take my $1,500 savings down to someone like a HIDEKI Matsuyama, who was leading the field, led the entire field at the Genesis in strokes gained tee to green last week. Unfortunately for HIDEKI, he does have to putt when he gets on the green, but I'm hoping that, he catches an average putter for the week, and he can put himself in position again here. I mentioned Louis Oosthuizen earlier, only $8,900. He's got 5 top 6 finishes in his last 7 starts. All of that is on the Euro side of things, but that's just fine. And when you look at his most recent WGC, which was the end of last year in China, he finished 3rd there as well. And finally, I'm someone even cheaper, and I think is going to give me a lot of leverage on the field, which is TYRRELL Hatton at $7,400. I expect him to fly a lot under the radar because this is his first start back from wrist surgery. But before he had that procedure done, he was winning in Turkey, and he's had a great run of success here in Mexico with nothing outside a 19th place finish.
All right, let's bring back in Kyle Porter here. We're going to do some head-to-head picks and then get your expert picks. So we're just going to kind of barrel through these. Let's start with the head-to-head picks, and Rick, you'll go first. Kyle, you follow. Let's do Adam Scott because he's won this tournament before, but most of the success came when it was at Doral. Put him in a head-to-head match against Webb Simpson. Of course, he's coming off his win at Waste Management, but this course has been tough for him. So, Rick, who do you like here?
Yeah, for me, it's Adam Scott. As I'm a big Webb believer, I think he's one of the most underrated players around, but this doesn't feel like a really good course for him. He hasn't finished inside the top 35, and I'm going to ride that Adam Scott heater train for a while.
Ride the Adam train. I'm going Webb. Look, Webb's like the third best golfer in the world right now, and nobody realizes it. I wrote a column a couple weeks ago about how he's better than Tiger Woods. Tiger went out at Riviera and kind of proved that for me. Webb has been awesome. He was the only top 10 guy to not play at Riviera. He's coming in off that win at Phoenix. I'll take Webb Simpson over Adam Scott. Okay, next head-to-head match, we have Abraham ANCER, of course, who is from Mexico. He was technically born in Texas, but grew up in Mexico, versus SUNGJAE. Rick, who do you like here?
Yeah, this is an easy one. I stan SUNGJAE, man. He is so cool, and he is, coming off of the missed cut at Genesis where he missed it on the number. He took the week off before, and for someone who plays like 100 rounds of golf a year, he's got to be chomping at the bit to get back out there. I love the 4-round format of this because he makes a ton of birdies, which should generally keep him up towards the top of the leaderboard for as long as possible.
I think SUNGJAE plays more like 100 rounds of golf a week there, Rick. But I'm going to go on the other side. I'm going to go Abraham ANCER. I cited his statistics coming in. He's played really well at the beginning of 2020. And I go back to that President's Cup. There was a real flair for the moment. He really seemed to enjoy being in the spotlight. And that's going to be on him a little bit this week at the WGC-Mexico Championship. We saw it first back at the Players last year when he was kind of in it with Fleetwood and those guys at the end. I think he's going to play really well this week and clip SUNGJAE.
All right, let's go through your expert picks pretty quickly. We are running out of time here, so it is a player to win, top 10, and sleeper. Rick, give us your expert picks.
Yeah, going out on a limb, Rory McIlroy to win, Bryson DeChambeau bulked up for his top 10, and then SUNGJAE 66-1 as my long shot to make some noise here.
Hopefully they give Bryson one of those heavy, those big Happy Gilmore checks so he can just lug it around in his biceps. I've got Rory to win also. This seems almost too easy. I'm going to end up taking him in my one and done, which is probably a terrible idea. But then I got Justin Thomas, top 10. He's played awesome here, finished second to Phil a couple years ago. He doesn't play badly 2 weeks in a row. Coming off a missed cut at Riviera, he's going to be awesome this week. And then TYRRELL Hatton, I'm concerned. He's coming off wrist surgery, hasn't played since last October, but he did win in Turkey, like Rick mentioned earlier, and he's played great at this tournament in the past few years.
All right, there you go. Your player to win, your top 10, and your sleeper, Rick Game and Kyle Porter. Thank you so much for joining us here on HQ. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day. And you can check out more of Rick and Kyle together. You heard him mention it just a little bit there, the First Cut podcast. Of course, we are in part of the PGA season. It was a lot of fun here. We got the WGC Mexico coming up this weekend, and before you know it, the Masters just around the corner. I mentioned the Masters, it's not on here because there's some other stuff. First, WGC Mexico coming up this weekend, followed by the Puerto Rico Open, the Honda Classic, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, then the Players Championship. It is a lot of fun. And as I said, make sure to subscribe to the First Cut podcast to find out all the juicy information. And every Tuesday, we'll be hosting a golf show here on HQ, so you can dive a little bit more into that. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.